What is the most negative thing about being like having the open source community for you? Like you have a lot of positive things, obviously, but what do you feel is something that you struggle with sometimes or don't like, or maybe there is not really something?
But there are plenty of discussions and things, but that doesn't matter. What matters is what we achieve, and for that the community is very useful. But maybe one thing I have in mind is something that was very strange for me, is that a few years ago, before we pivot to the business model that make the companies become sustainable, we were fully open source. And at the time, the relationship we had with the community was always conflictual. So we had people complaining because they were afraid that we became less open source, because they were afraid that, and also because we had the extremist open source guy who didn't like business. And what we do, we have an open source community of business people, so it's sometimes not easy to reconciliate. And so that was conflictual, but not for bad reason. It was also because they care. So it was positive, but it was always I had the feeling to be a fireman. I always had fire to extinguish. And at some point, we did the pivot of being open core. So we said, no, we will only do 80% of our activities in open source and 20% for a fee. And because we'll do this 20% for a fee, we'll be able to contribute 10 times more. And that's what we did. We produced 10 times more open source code now than before, because we are sustainable, we could recruit way more developers. But since we did this switch, the community at the time of the switch criticized us a lot. They were afraid that we would become like, because there are some bad examples in the open source world, like Magento. We flipped completely or things like that. They were scared, but today, let's say a few years after that, the community is way more peaceful than before, which is fun because we are a little bit less open source, but the acceptance that we really do business, that we as Odoo as a software vendor, we have to make revenue so that we can sustain the growth of the community. Since that has been accepted, the relationship with the community is way better.
Because it's clear, maybe, and you took the decision?
Because it's clear, maybe some extremists left at the time, because the ones who were anti-business and who were purely open source, and that was funny because they were anti-business for us, but not for them.
No, exactly.
So I don't know what's the effect, but today I would say the relationship with the community is very efficient.